So, Elizabeth, it's been so fun catching up with you and getting to meet you. It's so interesting to me, your background, which I'm sure is something that you feel all the time. But Elizabeth is not your typical company, big company CTO. You have a PhD in economics from Stanford. You were a trader at Merrill Lynch. Then you got into tech.
Yeah.
So how does somebody with your background, I guess, become the CTO of Netflix?
It's been a good ride. Yeah, I do have an unusual background. I would say having spent so much time finance, economics focused has been an advantage for my current role in a couple ways. So first is I'm very comfortable working with data. A big part of economics is being able to tell stories, the insights that come from data versus data for the sake of it, and be more fluent in business or financial strategy, which is certainly relevant for any company at any stage. The thing that's evolved for me in a way that I've loved for the CTO role is connecting that to technical strategy. So how can I translate back and forth between where Netflix is heading as a company, what's most important to us, and what that means engineering, data science teams need to be building to support that? So when I look back at it now, I wish I was intentionally constructing it this way, but sort of not quite by chance, a little bit constructed, but also just by great opportunities that came together. It ended up being the right combination of skills to be able to step into this role.
That's really interesting. Well, maybe it'll be a model for more people who think they don't need to be engineers to be CTOs. I think the big question of this conversation is really going to be, what is Netflix now? So it used to be ad-free, on-demand, binge watching, and it's now very different, where there are ads, there's live streams, WWE 52 weeks a year, gaming. So how would you describe Netflix in 2025?
We're still all those things if members want that choose your own adventure of Netflix. So ad-free streaming video on demand that you can binge watch anytime. You get access to the whole catalog with any of our plans. The thing that's changed over the past, especially a few years, I would say, is expanding in both content types and in business models, so that we have more to offer to members, and so we have more selection in plans or pricing that can appeal to a broader set of audiences around the world. So now we've introduced the baseline plan has advertising. So that allows members who are more price sensitive or wish to pay the lower price to still get access to all that same content, but experience ads, hopefully a good experience, which we're trying to solve for with members and for advertisers. And we've introduced over the last few years live content. So starting with Chris Rock, which was a stand-up special.
Watch that.
Yes, so that's a few years ago. And last year was a very big year for expanding at scale in live. So things like the Paul Tyson fight, 65 million concurrent streamers at once, which was no small feat.
Yeah.
The NFL games on Christmas Day, and then really getting much deeper into games at this point. So both mobile and increasingly games that are on TV. So streaming games for the most part. That's then a broader world of entertainment that we're able to deliver to members across all the different plan types. And so it's become a richer, more textured experience. And I think there'll be more of that as we expand. So you think about the future of entertainment is likely to be even more personalized, even more interactive, even more immersive. Having this breadth of content types and the way we're able to deliver that through the product really sets us up well to define that future.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about on that front. What I think is really interesting, we were just talking backstage, and you were saying that when you joined, Netflix was 8,000 people, and it's still very small, 15,000 people, considering these, new product lines. I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk maybe about live streaming to begin with, which, again, I watched the Chris Rock special. I've seen other Netflix programming. That seems like it's been maybe one of the biggest technological challenges for Netflix. There have been, the Tyson Jake Paul fight. There were some glitches. There's some, glitches along the way. It's a little bit tough when you compare it to Amazon's Thursday Night Football. Of course, they've got that, amazing AWS infrastructure. Tell me a little bit about whether you have the infrastructure in place or if you're sort of actively rebuilding it.
We do. So more than a decade ago, I'd say 12, 13 years ago, Netflix took a big strategic bet to build our own content delivery network called OpenConnect. And that has been truly the backbone of a lot of the scale we've been able to achieve around the world. We also work with AWS as our cloud service provider, but OpenConnect is the connection point to actually deliver the content to households in partnership with internet service providers around the world. That backbone is something that we have highly, highly optimized. So if you think about video on demand, taking a content file, audio, video file that then we want to be able to make sure flows all the way to when you press play on your phone, on your TV in your living room is an incredible experience. So that goes through encoding, that goes through, of course, different optimizations so that it's an amazing experience when you press play. That is a very strong infrastructure to be able to support live. It just doesn't do it out of the box. So one of the things we've been innovating on over the past few years is how does OpenConnect and really our entire infrastructure evolve to do both video on demand really well and also live content really well. So in some ways, I would say we have more of an advantage than many of the other companies in live content because we have that very strong content delivery network. And it's been a good challenge, honestly, to think about as we expand the content that we're providing, what do we need to do differently from a technical perspective so that we can make sure that the live content is as amazing and as reliable with such good quality of experience that the streaming content has had such a good reputation for over time. Things like Tyson Paul, yes, glitches. There's just no way to prepare for 65 million concurrent streams in a lab somewhere. So being the largest ever live streamed event and seeing, of course, we want the member experience to be flawless every time. But I thought it was amazing. We took such a big swing at that and that our product and infrastructure was able to deliver that many streams all around the world. I was in awe of the team that day in the launch room. I wasn't very useful in that moment. You know, I was kind of cheering on the team, figuring out how to make sure things mostly stood up and didn't break the entire internet. We learned so much from that. And that's the type of company Netflix is, where we took this big bet. We're building live. It's not easy to do live over the internet. Might seem easy because it's been on broadcast or cable for so long, but very different when streaming over the internet. We learned a ton in that Paul Tyson fight, including things we wanted to improve. And we had at that time about 4 to 5 weeks to get ready for 2 NFL games on Christmas Day. So it was a very busy 5 weeks. Holiday season. And the team really rallied around it, and those games were flawless. So, you know, I think you cited examples where, of course, there's other streamers who are getting into sports, but I think we can do just as well, if not better.
How much of your content does the live content represent now?
It's still a small share. We think about it as complementary relative to the video on demand. So thinking about, again, that breadth of content that we offer, even live being a relatively small share, if we can do things that are only on Netflix, like that Paul Tyson fight. We've had other of the tennis matches. We've got another Tank Davis Paul fight coming up in November. Those are things you can only find on Netflix, and that makes it exciting for members who feel like there's something really timely with a lot of anticipation to watch in the moment without needing to be a huge share of the overall catalog.
Well, I did see that you were bringing back Star Search.
We are.
Which, of course, was the springboard for Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera and many others.
Making stars over time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So is that coming back in 2026?
It's coming back early next year. So one of the fun things about Star Search is that we are going to have an integration of live voting as part of the content. Okay. So if you're sitting at home watching Star Search on your TV, you'll be able to either on the TV or your mobile phone actually put in a vote that advances or doesn't advance some of the contestants on the show. So it's just a very early starting example of the ways that we think content can be more interactive over time across devices between TV and mobile, where a member who subscribes to Netflix can actually feel like they're part of the story, influencing the storyline, feel immersed in that. Right. So live voting's one example. There's also a lot that's exciting happening with cloud games, which introduces another similar kind of interaction pattern. So we've got some fun living room party games launching in Q4 this year, more next year. For example, Boggle, one of our co-CEOs, Greg Peters, beat me very badly on video playing Boggle, so I'll have to come back and compete on that. But that's using your mobile phone as controller.
Oh, great.
So it's on your living room TV screen. You're able to do with friends and family locally using your mobile phone. It's another way to think about more immersive, fun, in the moment content, in addition to the more traditional film and TV, which of course will continue to hit out of the park.
That's a big deal. That's a huge departure. I mean, that's very interesting. I mean, I feel like Netflix has always been very forward-thinking, experimental. I remember the Bandersnatch film, Black Mirror, which was a choose-your-own adventure, but that technology is very different, where you were saying you access a file,
it's a good comparison point. So for those of you who enjoyed Bandersnatch, think about that as there were predetermined ways the story could unfold. And a member watching could choose which path they wanted to go down, but that content delivery network I mentioned, OpenConnect, had all those files ready to go. So depending on the adventure you chose, that was then the experience and the viewing that we delivered. The thing that's different as we get into live content with things like voting or games and gameplay is it's real time. It's a live experience where you're influencing an outcome or having an experience versus absorbing or consuming content without an ability to play a part in that story. So I think we'll see more and more of that over time. I think that's the special sauce that Netflix can bring as we have a broader array of content across more devices and more types of engagement experiences that make Netflix evolve in the way that I think entertainment more broadly is evolving right now.
Well, the gaming is also really interesting. That's a somewhat new initiative. 4 years or so that Netflix leaned into gaming?
And in the earlier period, we were heavily focused on mobile and what were some of the mobile games that we could bring to members as part of the subscription. So that's another example of trying to add value to what we're offering for subscribers. The more recent evolution is introducing more gameplay on TV. And so that's where cloud games become a bigger part of the portfolio. And that's going to be an emphasis in addition to mobile. So it will have both. But cloud games is its own technology challenge, as many have experienced before. So there, I believe the infrastructure we have and some of the product chops we have are going to allow us to deliver something better than what members have seen elsewhere. The other reason for games on TV at Netflix is we have these amazing worlds of IP and fandom and community around that. So think about properties like Stranger Things. If we can also introduce alongside games that allow members to, again, be part of the story, participate in that in a very immersive way, it fits nicely together with other content we have. So I think when you're thinking about your living room TV, that I could watch a film, I could watch a TV series, I could play a game, I can participate in live voting, I can watch a sports fight or an NFL game, that starts to feel like only on Netflix could you have that broad of array of experiences.
Just in terms of the IP, I guess I was just thinking, I know that on Friday there was news that Netflix is shutting down, Boss Fight Entertainment, one of the studios.
One of the game studios,
that's
yes.
affiliated with Squid Games. I'm just wondering, and I know that you shut down another games studio, I think maybe AAA. If you could just help us understand the strategy, maybe what you're pulling back from what you've learned in terms of moving forward.
Sure, yeah. So part of the learning we've been doing over the past few years has been what types of games are compelling for members on Netflix. There's lots of game offerings out there. So what we do at Netflix for members has to be unique and has to offer something that's differentiated. Just like any new business area that we've gone through at Netflix, we learn a lot about what works and what doesn't. And that includes both the evolution I mentioned to consider games on TV as being an important part of the strategy, and also thinking about a smaller selection of games that are truly special for Netflix. So an experience that only Netflix could deliver. So whether that's connected to IP, that's using the mobile phone as controller, that's a more immersive experience in the product more generally that happens to bring you into games when it's right for the moment. those are all things that have an implication for both the games that we want to have, so the content we want to have, and also the product or tech experiences we need to deliver. And so as we've learned, we've started to evolve, well, okay, so we want to have these games that are really connected to our IP, perhaps beyond the TV, and that then is connected to which studios do we continue to work with versus not over time.
Got it. I'm also really interested in your ad strategy, which seems like it's going really well.
It is.
I think in May you reported maybe 94 million people on the ad tier. I wonder if you can update us and let us know how many people are.
Continues to grow. I would have to check on exactly the latest, but it's one of the largest growing plans that we have across all of our offerings. So we have the ads plan. We also have standard and premium plans. And the ads plan continues to be a strong draw, which shows really that members or would-be members are attracted to that lower price point, especially given the experience. And yeah, we've seen incredible scale of both that plan and also a lot of opportunity now that we're on our own Netflix ad suite in the 12 markets where we have that ads plan. So we now have our own internal tech that is serving the ads and offers much better data measurement and targeting for our advertising partners as well.
That's great. I will say I just read a story this morning about that. Are you sharing less information about your subscribers than perhaps?
I think that's more a reflection of where we are. So knowing that we're relatively newer to the ads business, we've been building all of our capabilities from scratch. So there's no question that there's areas where we need to catch up to what our members' expectations would be for ad relevance and advertisers' expectations around data and measurement. So that's something where we're full steam ahead, especially now that we have our own tech suite to work off of.
And in terms of retention, where is it highest, at the premium level or the ad tier? Or, I mean, I guess, are you seeing different pattern?
Retention is very strong and engagement as well across all of the three ad tiers, all of the three plans, including the ad tier.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I also wanted to talk to you, of course, a little bit about Gen AI, which is a big question that I'm sure you're looking forward to talking about. Tell me a little bit about it. I mean, it sounds, like there's a variety of ways that Netflix can embrace Gen AI, including on the games front. So are you planning to? You talked about different paths that players can take, and I sort of imagine, using your IP there in creative ways. Is there any curtain raiser you could give us on that front?
Yeah. The good news is that Netflix has been using machine learning and AI for a long time now. So it's an area where we're really familiar in what the opportunities are. And throughout, we've used it intentionally where we think we can improve the member experience and improve the creator experience, which is a big part of the Netflix ecosystem. That doesn't change with Gen AI. So now it's a new set of capabilities that builds on the ones that we or others have, but we're still very intentional in where is it actually going to deliver higher quality or something better for members and creators. That could be an application for how creators are bringing their visions to life across film and TV. It could be how a game developer and game studio is thinking about developing their game and fun functionality that they want to have as part of that. And then in terms of the product experience that members engage with, it's things like right now we're in beta testing for a more conversational search experience. So it's like talking to a friend and saying, can you give me a recommendation? I'm feeling a little down today and would love to laugh, or something like that. So there's applications across all the areas where we've traditionally used ML and AI, where then we're going to be able to think about where does Gen AI help to supercharge some of that. But really importantly, it's a creator tool. So Netflix is very experienced in working with whether it's a film and TV creator or it's a game developer, and saying, how can we help you bring a human creative vision to life? And how can we make it easier, more delightful, more elevated to do so? So we're finding opportunities where Gen AI is really elevating storytelling, but it's not replacing the human creativity that's at the core. And I think we'll find something similar for games. And for member facing, as I mentioned, it has to be something that makes the experience better instead of the tech for the sake of the tech.
Right. And I guess, what is Netflix's stance on AI actors? There was a big, panic in Hollywood over this actor, Tilly Norwood, last month. And I didn't follow where that went, but I'm just wondering if the company has made a stance or is sort of thinking about how to deal with that
Yeah, I
feature.
would say something similar, which is entertainment and storytelling at its core is humanity. It has such a strong human element to it. It's hard to imagine really compelling stories that don't have human creativity at the center. Tech can elevate that. Gen AI could be a tool for bringing that vision to life, but I don't think a fully Gen AI created story is going to be the thing that's most compelling, at least for Netflix members, and thinking about where we see engagement. So I would describe it in sort of a similar way, that anything that removes the human part of it feels like it's lacking some of the soul that a lot of storytelling has.
And I guess just how do you think about communicating with Hollywood about this issue, since there are so many questions and concerns? I mean, how do you kind of talk to stakeholders and try to assuage them and.
Our position has been really strong in saying this is creator-led. So for many years now, Netflix has been building technology and tools so that creators and studio productions could create amazing film and TV series. We're in the same position, but now we're able to bring Gen AI tools to that conversation. So if it helps a filmmaker visualize the story they want to tell, or be able to anticipate some of the shots they want to make sure that they get, or some examples we've talked about recently where it would be impossible to get a certain visual sequence or to age or de-age a certain actor. We work with those actors and those creators to make something possible that wasn't possible before, or at least it was a very high bar to clear without having access to the technology. And we have that conversation hundreds of times a day across all the different studio productions that we have going on. That creator first mindset and way of approaching the work has been the best way to talk about it, because then it's a tool for the creator rather than a replacement for them. And that's really helped us with the uptick of where is the technology useful versus not, but it ends up being a creative decision, not ours. And there's been certain filmmakers, there's always going to be a spectrum. Some filmmakers are very, very comfortable thinking about how do I want to use new technology. We support them. Some filmmakers are really less interested in it, and we support them as well in more traditional filmmaking. And we've put out some creative guidelines or production guidelines around just best practices in the space. So which tools are available, what are some of the pros and cons of different tools. So that's also been a way to make sure our position is clear around the best way to use the technology depending on the use case the creator's interested in.
That's great. I was wondering if there was any sort of published, ethical framework or guidelines.
Yes, yeah, we do have those production guidelines now.
That's great. I wanted to ask also about how you're thinking about short form video. So you are increasingly competing with, TikTok, Drama Box, Real Short. How do you think about those platforms and how seriously to take them?
I think the best way to talk about Netflix's strategy in this is recognizing that there's a lot of different types of what we would call moments of truth, where a consumer is looking for entertainment of some flavor. And a lot of times they're looking for that film or TV show or game that we're able to offer. And sometimes they're looking for something more snackable, more that's like a moment of while I'm commuting, or I want to be able to pass a phone or tablet to my child and have them be engaged in something, which means that we need to be able to offer a broader variety of content to serve those types of moments of truth. And so we'll start to experiment with some things. So we're testing a vertical video feed on mobile that starts to reimagine what mobile is and kind of meet consumers where they are and how they're using mobile today. So instead of thinking about that as a small TV where I might watch film and TV, I can now not only discover something to watch later, but engage in that moment. So we'll be experimenting with different types of content that could be in that vertical video feed, different ways to clip and share content. So we've been innovating on Moments, which allows kind of a social connection to some of the content by allowing a member to take a clip and share that with their networks. So that's something that's going to come to life on mobile that kind of gets to some of those short form elements, but is not intending to copy or chase exactly what a TikTok or others are doing, because we think that there's a certain type of entertainment or moment of truth that's especially valuable to our members, and we really want to be focused there versus trying to be all things at every moment, which I don't think needs to be a core part of the strategy.
But we'll see more of that maybe in the first quarter. You might experiment.
Yeah, so over the next few quarters for sure, and throughout 2026, we'll use some of these new canvases we have, like vertical video, to start to experiment with new content types. And that includes something we announced more recently, which is podcasts, which will be another form of content that will be on Netflix now with a partnership with Spotify. So it'll be co-exclusive across Netflix and Spotify, and we'll be able to bring that to life on mobile, on TV, and on different surfaces throughout the product.
That's great. I mean, you are dealing with a new world, compared with when Reed Hastings started the company. It's a short attention span economy. And in fact, I have heard, criticisms of Netflix, or at least observations that it's tailoring some of its content to people who are actually doing something else at the same time. So I'd read somewhere that actors, the writers have to sort of spell out what the protagonist is doing in the scene, assuming that somebody's not actually looking at the screen while they're watching the show. Is there truth to that?
Not in how I watch content. I'm fully immersed. I mean, I know what you're getting at, in the sense that many of us, while watching on TV, have our mobile phone in hand. It hasn't changed the way we tell stories or how immersive and high quality we want them to be. But maybe it does connect to some of the things I mentioned earlier around how does the fact that you have your mobile phone in hand change how you want to interact with Netflix? So our conversational search experience is something that you could pull up on your mobile phone while you're watching TV to discover the next title that you'd like to watch, or using your mobile phone to play a game on TV, or like that live voting, or that clipping, the moments that I mentioned. Those are all things that are of the moment of realizing, people are on their mobile phones and they want to be entertained there, sometimes on its own, sometimes while they're watching TV, but sometimes we have amazing content like an Adolescence or a K-pop Demon Hunters or a Bridgerton, where people are fully immersed in what's happening in that story. And Netflix's approach is to be able to deliver something for all those types of moments across all those devices and make it feel like a world of entertainment that you can't get elsewhere. So I don't think about it as much as like, oh, they're not paying attention. We certainly see a lot of attention and excitement about the content, but we do need to have a greater breadth of what we're able to deliver in terms of that immersive, very personalized experience.
So it sounds in ways like Netflix in 2025 is a little bit, you've really moved away more so from Netflix and chill to, lean forward is my sense of things.
It should be a whole array.
Yeah.
There's things stories like some of the ones I just mentioned that capture every ounce of your attention. You want more of that. We want to do a great job at delivering more of that, whether it's on the screen or some of the off-product experiences we have now too, with Netflix House or some of our consumer products. So that there's an immersiveness of great intellectual property and great storytelling and characters that, Netflix wants to be part of and is part of as just an incredible entertainment opportunity all around the world. So that's changed quite a bit, and I'm glad it has in the last 20 years. When you think about DVDs to streaming, US only to global, now adding live games, ad-supported plans, new types of content coming. I would much rather work at a company that continues to evolve than one that stays static, and Netflix is definitely a good example of that.
There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. Last question, you talked about screens. I'm wondering, are you thinking about doing more in terms of theatrical releases? We're seeing Apple do a little bit more experimenting there, and I'm wondering.
No change in that strategy. We have a couple exceptions, so things like the K-pop Demon Hunters special weekends where we were able to kind of bring that to life for people in a real world experience, but those are rare and for special occurrences versus reflecting a change in the overall strategy.
Great. Well, lots to look forward to.
Yes,
so thank you so
sure.
much for joining us today, and thank you all. Oh, sorry. That's somebody else raising their hand. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
my
Let's give her a
pleasure.
hand of applause, please.